So, since we had Sean here today and Christopher just happened to be in the house, as we say, thought we could take a few minutes and drill him on what he's learned from you.
I think it's a great idea.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to hand it over to you to you have a little conversation about his takeaways.
Okay, well, let's start with takeaways. I mean, what have you taken away from some of our conversation?
Definitely some of the family meetings we had. The original one that we had down in Arizona, I learned a lot. Talked a lot about what to do with a balance sheet, income statement, things like that, and then even just how to save money and then invest it when you're older, and how to make your money grow. Things like estate taxes and then a death tax I'd never even heard of before that.
Because it's the stupidest freaking thing in the world.
And
that you don't know what it is and you can't pick the year you die makes it a moving target that I think was really good for you guys to understand. And that was a big one.
Learned a lot about some of the properties that I didn't even know I owned, and then I found out that I did indeed own. And like how those are growing in the market or maybe not growing and things like that. But yeah, learned a lot.
What was his value? Do you remember? I don't remember what your value was.
Gratitude.
Gratitude. Oh, how could I have forgotten? He
I
got me
gave
a
you
bracelet.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because she got me one
It did.
originally, and it broke.
Yeah, that was I like that process of understanding what one of your key drivers are. And
It was hard. You should tell our listeners how you do that one. I think that's a good one.
Well, it's really hard to define yourself from an emotional perspective, and money to a great degree does. I mean, it comes from emotion, because money does things for a lot of different people. So understanding where you are. So we take, and in this process we had a family meeting where you take a lot of different characteristics. And then you start separating what's most important, and we get down to
And they're literally cards, like a deck of cards. I think 100 values.
There's a little bit over 100, yeah.
You pick.
And you got to narrow it down to one.
Right, and it's
very hard.
Really hard. But then you go, yeah, that's how I approach things, and that's very telling.
So
again,
what's your one value, Sean?
Mine?
Yeah,
Freedom.
freedom. I knew that too. Mine was belonging, but then I stole Garrett's, so I turned it into authentic belonging.
You stole it?
I did. He was sitting next to me.
Little
and I'm
addition.
I like that. It was an addition, and it totally made sense to me. Authentic belonging.
The other thing you did that I liked were those insane ultimatums with like the trolley.
Oh,
and,
that was horrible. Your mother is on a railroad track, and do you kill her? Or that was horrible.
It was crazy. And then he'll throw in little like things you didn't know about that just completely changed the situation.
Right.
Yeah, talk about that one a little more. Remind me of that one. I mean, I remember the railroad tracks. But.
Right. So, well, again, this goes actually back to our conversation about, training. So how do you make a decision that's non-winnable? You can't win the decision. So if, you have a train track that can go to the right, and your mom's on it and it'll run her over, or on the left, there are 3 people you don't know. Do you let the train go and kill the 3 people you don't know, or your mom?
Yeah. And then he threw in something like, well, she has cancer and she's dying anyway, or something like that. And then he threw in more.
Exactly.
And that was horrible.
So train your brain to get into circumstances and say, how would I respond to this? Yeah. What would I feel like? Put myself in that emotional position. As you said, you went, you get a physical reaction. Take a really awful scenario. I mean, what happens if, we have a virus that affects the United States and we have to shut down the country?
Right.
Oh, wait, that'll never, it did.
Yeah.
So how do you, again, you have a physical reaction to it, and then you go, how do I handle this? Because life goes on. As awful as it is, whether we choose to track A, track B, it goes on. Mm-hmm. And those are the things that I'm glad you're taking that away from that, because that's...
And you almost go into triage, I think, when COVID hit. Everyone was in triage. And you're right, it does... Those moments happen. Cyber attacks happen.
It's training for, this is training for circumstances that you don't think will ever occur, but do. And you get put into a circumstance that you go, everybody has family members. We have to make decisions. how do you handle that? It's not a decision you want to make. It's a no-win decision. It's a, we had this with another client the other day. I've got to take the keys away from my dad. Wait a minute. How do I do that? And I need to have that skill set to do that. Or, you have a roommate at college that does something really stupid, and you're like, I've got to make some really hard decisions here that I don't want to make. I like my roommate, but okay. So again, getting that feeling of how do I do this, and understanding what that means, and then let's make a rational decision. I mean, that's what that process is all about. It's understanding how to make a non-winnable decision.
Almost without the try to get past the emotion. Maybe not without the emotion, but
Right. You're kind of going, understand the emotion. Yeah. Because again, if I gave you that circumstance, how would you feel?
Not good.
3 people you don't know you're about to kill, or you're going to kill your mom.
Right. It's an easy choice, but then it's also...
Right. And then live with it.
Right.
And then you have to go, I'm good with the decision. I understand the decision. It's horrible. It's awful. But it had to be made. And
how about your business is almost bankrupt and you have to fire your sister to save it?
Right. Horrible.
No-win situation. But I knew what I had to do.
I'm going to fire a 30-year-old employee, a 30-year employee, 2 years before the retirement.
Because that one I couldn't do.
Right. Well, again, you're going to be faced with these decisions. If you build a business, you're going to be faced with these decisions. When you make investment decisions, things go sideways.
I think that would be a good one to kind of end our little bit here on, because that's what you started with us is kind of a little game, which has been fun. So let's share that little game. So
the market is filled with risks. We make investments. So what we did was we go through a process of build a portfolio. Now we're just in the beginnings of this, so what it's really going to be about, it's not just about, I picked the right stock and we made money, it's about what risk was associated with this, because we gave 2 different columns of stocks to choose from with very different risk profiles, and we're going to see as time goes on how those profiles work, and am I really willing to take this risk if I said, this is my life savings? If I put my life savings in this, is this a risk willing to take? When you don't, very much like we talked about with regards to diversification, if I am fine financially and if the company goes under and I have nothing left, am I good? Yeah. Okay. I can make different decisions now. I'm in good shape. Same kind of thing here. I've got everything in one basket. Okay. That means I have to be different.
So I got to back up the bus a little bit for listeners of exactly what we did. So Sean gave us 2 different lists of stocks that we could buy, and each of us had to pick, I think we could pick up to 5. Mm-hmm. So we all did, and then he reported back on how our stocks did in like a month, maybe, right? About a month. So every month we're going to do this. And Christopher's winning. He wasn't even at the meeting. So
he was not at the meeting.
Yeah.
He was unable to collect his prize.
Unable to collect his prize. Garrett and Christopher are making money. The rest of us are losing money.
Right.
So I was going to ask you, Sean, at some point in this game, are we allowed to sell and buy, change?
At some point in the game. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's about those decisions. It's about, again, in life, when you have stuff, you have to be able to manage it. Mm-hmm. And the way that you manage it is very, very different. Mm-hmm. So this is a real life tool. Now it's not.
It was great for them, and I know you weren't at the meeting, but we were explaining it to him that you could see the ones that were really risky, like they went really high, and then all of a sudden dropped, versus the ones that are just kind of like chugging along, stable, but they're making some money. So the moral of the story is you want a little bit of both of that, right?
Right, and it's understanding that risk, because yes, and that's why we specifically said, here's a list of, these ones are going to be a little bit more volatile, these ones are not. Now we didn't give that information up in front, but I think some of you guys picked it out anyway and said these are going to be a little bit more risky.
Mm-hmm. And it was funny what people were. Did you research any of them? Or you just
no,
picked,
I just saw them, picked what I knew,
yeah,
thought would do well.
There you go.
Yeah. Well picked.
90%.
Game's not over yet, though, baby.
I was going to say the game is played every day, 300 and 260 days.
Do you watch any of those stocks now?
I kind of forgot pretty much what I picked, besides like 3, to be honest. So no, just letting it ride.
Just letting it ride. That's awesome.
Which is okay for this game, but if it's your life savings, and again, that's kind of the point. We gotta, this is important.
And I would say, and this could maybe be our last thought, but I think also maybe from this game, but also from what you've heard me say about Sean, like, and I know like some of you guys like to dabble in stocks and stuff, and that's fine to some degree, but depending on you to be the expert in my life where I there's no way I could do what you do and pick and choose, and you've always done a really good job of growing, and especially growing over time and learning to not freak out and sell. Like, I don't even watch. I just trust. I mean, I do. We meet quarterly. I know give me the summary.
Right.
But how important it is to have an expert doing that and to not really depend on your emotions and your behavior, to buy and sell, unless it's like gambling, and very controlled, to me, is the safest way.
When you're not making the decisions based on a sound fundamental, what I'm not, again, very much like we talked about earlier, then it is, it's gambling. It's gambling with an upward drift, which is nice. Mm-hmm. So in general, the market will go up. But that doesn't mean if you pick a company, you have business risk, that company can go under.
Right.
And it happens.
And it's your job to research them and know,
right,
what's going on in the market and who else. I don't know.
And when to buy it, when to sell it.
Exactly.
When do you take the risk off? Because it's all about the risk. It's about, and fortunately for you, you have, a very high risk tolerance with that amount of money.
Yeah. Which we're talking a very small amount of money, just to be clear. This is very small, but it's proving the point, which is very fun. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you being on episode 8.5 of this
Thanks for jumping in. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.